The themes we're going to consider today are the mystery of beginning, the mystery of birth, and the mystery of the cycle, the spiral, the cycle, the place of beginning and evolving, expanding, moving out, breathing out, the beautiful, beautiful expansion, which of course we live every moment in our body as we exhale and inhale and exhale and inhale. Moving to the midpoint, the mysterious place in our lives we know nothing about. We know nothing about what, in fact, after our death will have been the very middle of our life. When I was painting this wall and painting that great double spiral, I suddenly realized I had no idea what the midpoint of because I was meditating on the very theme we're talking about now. I thought, I don't know when the midpoint of my mother's life was, or my father's life. And so I stopped painting and went and got a piece of paper and did my mathematics. She was born on a certain day, she died on a certain date, and so on. And I worked out that she was 32 and a half. Sorry, she was 30 in a few months. And this was a profoundly moving experience for me. And I'm telling you this so that it might be a helpful meditation to you, to meditate on the midpoints of your parents' lives, your grandparents, your friends, however you would wish to use the information, and then situate yourself into their lives at that time. Where was I when I was 30 years old? What was our relationship? What was my parents' relationship with each other when they were 30 years old, because they were the same age? And I found it most moving to look back with the end in your hand, to look back and seek that middle point and meditate on their presence in your life at that time. As I say, parents, good friends, grandparents, and so on. So we speak now of our beginning, our moving toward, and the rest, the equilibrium, the equinox, mysterious equinox in our own lives that we celebrate each year, twice a year, but in relationship to our final going down, until finally the double spiral, the other half of the double spiral, the moving in and in and in and in and in to the point of our rebirth. The beginning, the re-beginning, the rebirth. So that this inhaling and then exhaling, expiring, as we move toward our expiration, how that moves through our lives. I begin my day very, very simply with a glass of water. It's coming now to the time of the year when I have to put some clothes on. I usually go outside, when I can, I go outside naked. I live completely enclosed back there. And I go outside with a glass of water, a cup of water, whatever is at hand, and I pour half out in libation to this, and I do this, as I say, at dawn, when the light is already, it's long before sunrise, but the light is manifesting over the mountains. And of course, the manifesting light throws the mountains into just this black, like silhouette. And the beauty of those grays before they are lit with the first hint of yellows and pinks of the rising sun. And I pour half of the water out as a libation to the day, an offering to the day, in terms of outpouring yourself, that you are giving yourself to the day. You are going to outpour yourself. today. And then I drink the rest of it. And then soon after that is when I go outside and light my fire. And now I'm moving toward the time of the year when I don't actually go outside and light my fire in the fire altar, but I go inside the studio and light the fire, which will burn all day. It's the only source of heat in the studio, which I love. And then, of course, I get to tend the fire all day, which is a very powerful experience. To feed the fire as the fire feeds me. Again, that's cyclic. As I feed, so I am fed. As we give, so we are given. Again, that image of us receiving and then outpouring. It's always this sacred cycle within our souls. So that at the end of the day, when we expire and give ourselves into sleep, when we say to ourselves, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray to thee, my soul, to keep. Should I die before I wake, I pray to thee, my soul, to take. That utter abandonment into sleep. So this double spiral of beginning and ending, of birth and death, will be our first theme of the day. Then I want to move, because we're going to be talking about, of course, the Great Mother. We cannot not talk about the Great Mother when we're talking about these two themes. These are the double breasts, so to speak, of her life, of her being. We'll see some images of the Great Mother. I mean, we could spend 4 days looking at nothing but images of the Great Mother. But if any of these themes you feel grabbed by, move into those areas yourself. Go to the libraries. I mean, the libraries are filled with fabulous art books. You know, from time to time, and I think it's a kind of embarrassment, people will say to me, oh, I don't know a thing about art. This is utter nonsense. You cannot, I mean, if you don't know a thing about art these days, it's because it's a willful act. I mean, there are, by the day, by the week, by the month, bookstores are filling with fabulous art books. And just to choose a book for the week, and just every time you go by the book, just turn the page and just stay, even if you stayed with an image for 30 seconds. This, you know, this is not an intrusion in your life in terms of, oh, I don't have time. You don't need time. You just need a moment. You don't need, if you have the time, how beautiful, but don't deprive yourself. Don't put off what you can have today if you can find 30 seconds. And keep the book out. Yes, in shelves. You can't have all your books. I mean, even I don't have art books open all the time but choose a book, stay with it. And just absorb. Our eyes are our society degrades our eyes, fills us with images which are meaningless, which are lies, which are degrading in every way, which cheapen our understanding of what images are. So, and especially if you are in a position, whatever your jobs are, your lives are, where in fact you are, where you are accosted, signs on highways, or rushing through traffic to and from work, everywhere, nothing of any beauty. Try to take 5 minutes in the evening when you come back into your own place of solitude, or at least quiet after a busy day. Take 5 minutes just to do nothing, but just gaze on some image in a completely random way. Open a book, find just a book of poetry, find one line that you can just use to rest yourself. Places of beauty take your soul. Your soul is crying for these moments of beauty as places to rest and celebrate beauty. And this will nourish you. You know it nourishes you. You know how you feel even coming from a nourishing movie. It's like, you've been filled with beautiful images. And I don't mean this in any kind of, I mean, even images of violence can be even taken out of, what am I trying to say here? An image of a burning home is not beautiful, because you enter into the drama of the conflict. And do you see what I mean? I don't mean beautiful as something passive and staring at paintings of sunsets, but images that from which answer a creative need in you. I'm going to have to get my sunglasses. I feel I'm not in the circle now, so I mean, you know what I mean. I feel I don't like the separation. Move a little closer to me, hon. Well, just a little bit. That's fine. That's fine. I'm sorry to be. I don't mean to be fussy, but I don't. Even that much distance made a difference for me. We've only to stop and spend time with what we ordinarily would take for granted. We don't take our children for granted. We see them all the time, but we never take our children for granted. And yet we live surrounded by beauty, which we can gradually move away from in terms of holding. It's all about holding the gaze. As you gaze at a tree or even a leaf, to feel that gaze coming back at you. That this whole panorama of life on Earth is not a backdrop for human activity. It's not like a stage set we rush back and forth across. It's an integral part of us. And we know that mentally but I think we fail in our imagination to honor it as we honor each other on a daily basis, your friends, your family, the people you see on a fairly regular basis. You honor, deeply honor. You can't live without their presence in your life, nor should you be able to live without these trees, for instance, in your life, or birds, or animals, or any of these other natural objects. And moving into, as I say, the Enthroned Mother, and we in her lap, and carrying each other. We carry each other in our laps. When we embrace, it's an extension of this enclosure. As we are in the chair and can feel her arms coming round us, as we lived with our mother's arms around us for so many years. When we embrace people, it's the same enclosure. Enclosure is another wonderful word to make real in your life. How do we enclose each other and the beauty around us? Because all of this is food. And unless we reach out and eat this, consume it, bring it into ourselves, it's not going to happen, because the society hides it from us. It's no longer a given. We have to really guard these moments and find them. So many people want to know about my name, and rather than tell you this little story while we're looking at the slides, I'm going to tell you now. My name, Meinrad, is from an old name, Meinrad, which means great counselor. The original Meinrad, I'm sure that the name was perhaps even a common name, who knows, but it comes to me through my family. And my family is associated through a great-great-uncle, whose name is Meinrad, is associated with one of the ancient Carolingian monasteries in the Germanic area, what is today the city of Zurich. Outside Zurich, not the city of Zurich, but the area outside Zurich. Outside Zurich is a monastery founded in the 800s, actually the 700s, during the height of the Carolingian period as a monastery, and it began with a hermit named Meinrad. And I'm not going to tell you his whole story, but the point is he was a man in his late 20s or early 30s who felt the need for solitude and went out into deeper and deeper into the wilderness, and was eventually clubbed to death by two men who thought he was a crazy old man and possibly in his cell, was buried a pot of gold kind of thing. And they clubbed him to death. So he was martyred in these mountains. And over time, a shrine grew up over his grave. And the shrine eventually became a small church, and then it became a larger church, then it became a monastery, then it became a great monastery. And my uncle, Meinrad, who was a holy man there, died, I'm speaking to the microphone. Anything can be a spirit, who died in 1925. And he comes to me as a gift in my family history through my maternal grandfather, Johann, whose family came from Switzerland and settled first in Wisconsin and then moved on to Arkansas. And when I entered the monastery, the abbess who knew this story asked me if I wanted to have his name, and I was very pleased. I was very pleased to say yes. So that is my my spirit name, my given name, and needless to say, we've all had powerful manifestations of information manifesting to us specifically in our lives. I'm sure all of our lives, and even if you can count a half a dozen great dreams in your life, those are huge gifts that feed you all of your life. And I hope that in the course of our being together, we can share some of these dreams. Mary talked about her important dream yesterday, so please beware that if as we share at whatever level, or these deeply personal levels, share whatever dreams you might want to bring to the circle. So that's my little speech for the morning. Now I would like to invite you to speak to the circle, possibly some dreams last night, or anything that's occurred to you this morning before we go in to begin our work.
Meinrad, I always have a feeling of emptiness when people say things like you did today about when our mothers embraced us, when that was not my experience of being held by the mother.
Well, but you have the experience in your imagination. You may not have had it physically, but you know in your lifetime you have known embraces.
It's why I felt compelled to rescue two abandoned girls and raise them and mother them as I wished.
Well, then in fact, you have known it. You may have not known it at the source, the way possibly I would say most children have known it. But I don't, you have taken what was a huge and turned it around and fulfilled it as being a huge nurturer yourself. What you did not have, you knew possibly more than most people how important it was to bring that full circle. That as you nourished, then you were nourished. And I don't in any way mean to minimize that huge emptiness which who knows why you could have been or would have been deprived of. But is it possible that you have worked harder at the other to fulfill that than possibly other people would have? I myself have come from just the opposite, a place of the most intense mothering, and yet that did not compel me, possibly for that reason, has never compelled me to myself want to be a mother, and to, this is the way I mother. I mean, there's so many ways, as we know, to mother and to embrace and to communicate in that gaze. The gaze, that aboriginal gaze of mother and infant, which is the beginning of being held in existence, which somehow you did not have, or I mean, I don't mean to put words in your mouth here, but
I were talking last night, and he said that our experience caused us to both resist the feminine. The masculine had more appeal for us because we haven't had good role models, if that's the word.
Sure, well, I mean, absolutely.
I, again, had the best of both. It's difficult to even find the vocabulary for the impact and power of these Aboriginal experiences, because vocabulary fails it fails utterly to express what we're trying to express here. So I had equally from both parents. My father, the memories of my father's lap are just as important to me as memories of being held by my mother and my grandmother, you see, especially. So I had a like triple dose of this. And possibly because I even had so much of it, so to speak, at that point in my early, it freed me to use my mothering in a different way. I don't know. I mean, this is all completely speculative, and yet we must speculate on it. And over the years, many women have come to me with exactly your story. And I, for years, have been working with large groups of women. And very often after I've made a presentation, people will bring their books and want me to sign them. And very often people will say to me what you've just told me, and will say, I was able to find an imaginary mother through your book, and it has changed my life. And when people started saying that, you know, when this all kind of fell upon me, I'm such a hermit. You perhaps find this hard to believe, but I really am a woman of intense solitude. So when my first book was published here, a book had been published in when I was in the monastery, but of course I was in the monastery. I wasn't out doing book signings or anything like that. So when this book was published, and I started getting letters from you know, universities and colleges and women's groups and so on to please come, you know, give a talk. And I'd say, talk? What am I going to talk about? I mean, believe me, this truly fell upon me. And in the beginning, I would write out every word. And I always asked for a podium so I could be hidden behind a podium. In the, you know, it would be like this. And the only way I could do it was because when the lights went out for the slides, I was in darkness. And I wouldn't even ask, they would say, do you want a light? No, I didn't even want a light on the podium. I wanted only a little flashlight. So no one could see me. And that's the way I used to, and I was like this. You can't imagine, but I knew somehow I was supposed to do this. If I was being asked to do this, I had to find a way, figure out a way to do this emotionally and come out of this hiding, but I had to do it in very gradual steps. And then years went by, years I'm talking about, and I was asked to speak at a huge gathering in Long Beach. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of women. And I was the keynote speaker, and I was just like this. I had a little, you know, because as it was a little notebook, and as this slide was on, this would be the text, then I turned the page, and then that slide would go on, blah, blah, blah. It all went through like this. I mean, you know, click, click, click. And A friend of mine, my oldest and dearest friend, who lives in Los Angeles, she's an actress, and now she's actually directing theater. She had come down from LA to be there for that afternoon. And not long before I was to do my thing at 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that, one of the organizers rushed up and said, Barbara Boxer's here. And she went, well, Barbara, yeah, I said, who? What? Barbara, what are you talking? And this was like, Barbara Boxer, and she heard that this gathering was here, and she wants to, she rushed forward, and she has to speak to everyone. And I said, well, who, what are we talking? I mean, I'm supposed to do this. No, you can't do this. Barbara Boxer has to do first. And I had no idea who this person was. She went up in the place went wild and screaming and yelling, and then I realized, of course, at some point she was a politician and she was running for president or something, I don't know. And I turned to my friend and I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to quiet these people, to even begin to create a space for them to look at these imageries. I don't know what to do. And there was a silence for a moment, and she said, what's that in your lap? She had never heard me speak. Well, these are my notes. She said, give them to me. And she put them. I said, what are you doing? She said, the way you're going to quiet them is to go up there and stand there and wait till they're quiet. And then you're simply going to show the slides and talk about every slide. Without anything in your hand, without any podium, without anything. Are you out of your fucking mind? Give me that book. Amy, I think, has heard this story. And she said, do it. She literally pushed me out of my chair. And I went up, and that's what I did. And I never used another note. And that's what I do. But and she was right. I stood there until they shut up. I didn't say a thing. I just stood there. I was introduced. Somebody came and introduced me, but the crowd was still like this, buzzing and et cetera, et cetera. So that's my story of transition. I was just, this enclosure was so intense in my life that it enclosed me. And I live this enclosed life because I feel so utterly safe in this world of enclosure. It's what my whole life has been. I enclosed myself in a monastery. I enclosed myself when I was at Montserrat, for 10 months, living in that bell tower of a monastery. Oh, darling, does that have energy? Did you see that?
I know, it's wonderful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Bless you. But don't we all want a picture of this? Look at this.
Yeah.
That's where she was sitting before, up on top.
You're just a sweet girl. You're a little spirit dog.
Boy.
Sorry, I'm sorry. You're such a sweet boy, yes. And we want you to be this wonderful male presence. And you are this wonderful male presence. Such joy. Such joy. Joyous dog, Corey. More stories before we go in? What's our time like? Yes, we ought to be moving in that direction anyway. We all set? Okay.